Speaking of winning streaks, the Warriors are on a winning streak. And you interrupted my first segue, but then I came back with another segue. That's just all freestyle off the top of the dome. That's what we do. Can spit a couple bars if you need as well. The winning streak for the Warriors is 2 in a row. Big time. But I'm going to start with a few big picture ideas with the Warriors because this is just a fact. Let me double check them and make sure this fact is correct because I actually haven't double checked. Let's go back to the 2023 rugby league season in the NRL. Now, it was a good season for the Warriors. They made the finals. And as we discussed, they got a big crowd at Mount Smart for the game against the Knights, and they finished that season 3rd. So let's deal with some facts here, because the Warriors in the 2 Andes era, the NRL team has been a top 4 team in 2.4 seasons. I'm not sure where the 4 came from, but like 2 1/4 seasons, 2 1/3 season. In those 2 and a bit seasons, they have been a top 4 team in 2 of the 3 seasons. That math doesn't work, but you know what I'm saying. 3 years, and they are a top 4 team. Are they top 4 right now? Yes, they're 4th.
Yeah, they were 2nd briefly. They must be 3rd now.
Just doubting myself. Just got to get rid of the doubt.
It's hard to believe. We're just looking at the NRL table, see the Warriors way out there.
It's also just a lot of mindfulness doubt in your head that you got to double check, but you got to rise above it and believe in yourself and do your best. So the Warriors, 3 years under Andrew Webster, the NRL team is top 4 in 2 of the 3 years. The New South Wales Cup team is top 4 in all 3 years. And the under-17 Harold Matthews Cup team has made the grand final in 2 out of 2 seasons. That's just facts. You look impressed. And that's the point. Like, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of, again, you alluded to it. The Warriors, they're poking holes in their own stuff. Aussies do not care about Aotearoa in general. And this is actually good. Like, it's not good if we're dealing with another NRL team in New Zealand. We want some recognition from Australia because we're insecure about it. Like, none of Australia not caring about Aotearoa helps in those regards. But as far as the Warriors creeping under the radar as an organization, Australia not giving a shit about Aotearoa is good. Because when you deal in those facts, it's pretty impressive what the Warriors are doing as an organization. And the blip last season, where the Warriors did not make the finals, that was balanced out by the under-17 team winning the Harold Matthews Cup Grand Final. That was balanced out by a 2nd consecutive New South Wales Cup season in which the Warriors were one of the best teams. And think about the change of players that we have experienced in these 3 years. The change of players at the NRL level, the change of players at the New South Wales Cup level, because all the youngsters who played in the first 2 seasons, now they're playing NRL, and you still have a high turnover at the under-17 level, but there is a solid thread of success, of winning across those 3 grades. And that, of course, not talking about SG Ball, not talking about Jersey Flegg, because I'm being selective, and that's what I can do. But if we just boil it down to those 3 competitions, it's very impressive what the Warriors are doing. And that's something I'm tracking because everything I read, like whether it's there was a yarn on NRL.com about Jackson Goforth, there was another yarn about Aaron Clark. They are very happy at the Warriors. What does Shans Nickel-Krokstad do? He re-signs. What does Tana Boyd do? He comes to the Warriors to play reserve grade. Like, everywhere you look, everyone is happy to be at the Warriors. They are happy to come to the Warriors. They are happy to stay at the Warriors. Something good is happening at the Warriors when you take in all that information. And that's what I'm pondering right now. And after the win against the Knights, I'm also pondering how the Warriors, they had those 3 wins where they were playing the long game. They were winning late. They won late against the Seagulls. They won late against the Roosters. They won late against the Tigers. They kind of just battled through, got to played their style of footy. They did what they wanted to do, and they were rewarded late in the game.
This is sounding very Auckland FC.
Until the last 2 weeks. Because after the loss against the Storm, then they had their win against the Broncos, and then they defeated the Knights. The Warriors, I don't think, played very well in either of those games. To the point where the Knights were able to score tries against the Warriors. And the Knights suck. The Knights are not very good at NRL Rugby League right now, but they still scored tries against the Warriors. And I was like, surely. Same against the Broncos. The Warriors, they were the better team, but they had so many mishaps where you're like, surely the Warriors aren't going to lose this game against the Broncos. Because that's what the Warriors used to do. They would lose those type of games. It was less prevalent. It was less obvious. It was less of a feeling against the Knights, but it was still there. It was like, surely the Warriors won't lose this game against the Knights because the Knights suck. The Knights suck so much. And I actually raised my concerns about the Knights a few weeks ago. We're talking about the most concerning Kiwi sports teams, and the only rugby league team I talked about was the Knights because they love New Zealand. They love Kiwi-NRL juniors. They recruit so much from New Zealand, but their NRL team sucks. And somehow the commentators in that game, it's like great kick chase from the Knights. Or if you just listen to the commentators in that game, the New Zealand commentators, you would have thought the Knights were really in the mix. You would have thought the Knights were a top 8 team, posing a threat. Kalen Ponga, the most dangerous player in the NRL. None of that was happening. But they did still score tries against the Warriors, which is to say the Warriors were the better team, but they weren't dominant. They didn't dominate the game. They still invited the Knights into the contest. They still had lapses. They still had mishaps. But they won. In the last 2 games against the Broncos and Knights, the Warriors, they should have won, but they almost lost to varying degrees. Much closer against the Broncos, still a bit iffy against the Knights. Those are the games that the Warriors used to lose. And those are the games that tell me that there's just a little bit of grit, a little bit of mana there, and especially when they won those 2 games without James Fisher-Harris. Because James Fisher-Harris got injured against the Storm, I believe. So I can, the control, the physical control, winning the ruck, the repeat efforts, with and without the footy, the intimidation, the bullying that you could see against the Seagulls, the Roosters, and then the Tigers, to me, that is led by James Fisher-Harris. And when you don't have James Fisher-Harris against the Broncos, then the Knights, then you start to have those, your 80-minute performance, I believe, goes up and down, up and down. You have your highs, you have your lows, and they just needed to find a way to win. So the way I'm describing these wins is we had 3 wins in a row playing the long game. Then we had 2 wins in a row by any means. By any means, just get the 2 points. Not only did they just get the 2 points by any means, but they did it without James Fisher-Harris. And that to me is notable because he's the most influential Warriors player, I believe. Which is actually kind of interesting because I was thinking they're also missing Tuivasa-Sheck. They're also missing Watene-Zelezniak. At no point this season have I thought to myself, this team really needs Tuivasa-Sheck. Like I've never thought that without Tuivasa-Sheck. I haven't imagined what the Warriors would be like with Watene-Zelezniak. Now, the other guys are doing the job. Because that's what like Auckland FC, you've got a squad of players ready to step up. And if I hear next man up one more time, I might start to get real skinny. But the Fisher Harris absence feels more notable. But as we've seen under Andrew Webster, whether it was playing without Sean Johnson, whether it's playing without Tohu Harris, whether it's playing without Dylan Walker now as well, whereas playing without Adam Whanua-Blake last season, the Warriors have the squad, the mentality, the skill, everything else you need to win games without those players. This season, later bolt, Dylan Walker, we're all good. This season, no Watene-Zelezniak, we're all good. This season, Tuivasa-Sheck not playing, we're all good. Then we've got no Fisher Harris, 2 wins. So that's, I think, another impressive reinforcement to go with the club-wide results that we've seen with New South Wales Cup and the under-17s. Who are my 2 barometer players? Real question, not rhetorical.
One of them I know for certain is Sean Snuggle-Klokstad, because we've spoken on that one. The other one, it's Wade Egan, isn't it?
Sean Snuggle-Klokstad and Wade Egan both were better than their opponents from the Knights. Klokstad, he was better, more influential than Kalen Ponga. Wade Egan, better, more influential than Jaden Brayley. And if those 2 dudes are fizzing, I think the Warriors can win, because, to be honest, I thought they were the best players against the Knights. And if those 2 are your best players, I think the Warriors are always in a good position. And we know how they play. We don't need to break down all the nooks and crannies of those 2 players. We've talked a lot about it. But then we've got Jackson go forward. And he is now officially Jackson go forward. Because that's what he does. He just goes forward. And you're talking about the Michaela Moore redemption arc? Jackson forward. Go forward. He is crazy. Like, I don't know how he does it, especially after round 1. Now he's stepping up in Fisher Harris's place. I think he was actually off the bench against the Knights because Marata Niokore started. And that was interesting because we finally got to see Niakore's versatility on display at the Warriors. We saw it a lot with the Eels. We saw it a lot for the Kiwis. Niokore has played centre for the Kiwis in a win. But at the Warriors, he's been kind of just stuck on that edge, which is fine. And I believe that's why they signed this English dude, Gannon, because he's a similar style of edge forward to, not style, but similar stature, similar skill set as Niokore. So I think Andrew Webster likes that type of edge forward. But Niokore can also roll through the middle where he's just brutal. I actually think he's better suited to the middle. And it'll be interesting to see that. But it was good to see against the Knights that experiment tested. Because I do think Niokore has a bit to offer through the middle. Maybe not as much as go forward. Because go forward, big minutes, always shows up. He's just like, I don't see him, like we're talking about humming along and the ups and downs, that type of stuff. He's just always there. He's always taking a run. He's always making meters. He's always making a tackle. And he was also, depending on your stats, but I think just based on vibe, he was better than Tyson Frizzell, and he was as good, if not better, than Leo Thompson. So shout out to Go Forward. I think he's one of my favorite players right now for the Warriors. And you know you're one of my favorites if you do have like a nickname, Go Forward. He must be leading the Warriors still for post-contact meters. because he was leading the Warriors for post-contact meters before this game, and I can't imagine why he would not still be leading the Warriors after this game. So let me double check. Jackson Ford, aka Go Ford, he is 17th in the NRL for post-contact meters. He has 432 post-contact meters. Next best, Aaron Clark on 389. Mitchell Barnett, 381. That is the reason why he's the go forward, because he goes forward. But he still has that motor, which I like. And that's very useful for the Warriors in absorbing the injuries, the absences and whatnot, but also shout out to Jackson Go Forward, because that dude is awesome. What else do we want to say? You got anything to say?
Do I have anything to say? Well, this was more of a take from the Broncos game, but which was at Mount Smart Stadium, wasn't it? So there was a big home crowd, big atmosphere, big part of that one. And the way the Warriors won that with the late kick too, the golden point. So it was plenty of action there. I can't remember if I said this last week, but Dimitri Vaimunga on the bench in particular, but while he was out there, it was the same thing. Like the energy that guy brings when he's running the ball is pretty obvious, but even the energy he brings when he's just sitting on the bench and he's cheering louder than anyone, he's cheering as loudly as the people in the crowd are when old mate Metcalf's hitting the winning goal. That one, I jotted that one down in my mind hypothetically there, because that's one of your young players who's having I'll say a breakout year, but it's more like the breakout year has been designed for him. Like he's been put in a role where he's going to have a bigger impact, where he's going to be a top 17 type guy. So this is sort of what's expected, but he's doing that. He's not going to be dropped. He's out there battling away, looking very good. And I guess this tacks on to your point earlier about how like people just seem to love being at the Warriors right now. People seem to love the atmosphere. And I noted that one from that Broncos game in particular, but it's the same every time you see him play, where someone like Vaimunga is like, you see that love. Like he expresses that love very vividly throughout the game. He and you know, you love as a fan, you love having players like that who are that expressive about it, who feel the same way about the club as you do. And then as teammates, like you also love that because that's infectious. That helps drive your energy yourself. So love seeing players like that, but especially when it's coming from one of the younger guys in the team as well.
And yeah, I'm glad you brought up Vaimunga, because like Leotawa started every game at centre. Everyone knows Halasima. Like it's hard not to know about Halasima right now. But Vaimunga's played every game, and he does add the same energy, the same fizz, this power, footwork, aggressiveness off the bench. And I feel like he is probably the most overlooked youngster of this group. Like even Jacob Laban, whether it's just his size or there might be just a little bit more hype around Jacob Laban. But Vaimunga is, and I've said it before, like the way him and Leotawa are just, theme of the podcast, humming along all season doing their job, to me that is as impressive as Halasima getting the headlines, getting the highlights, because not everyone can get the highlights. And you're doing different jobs. But even then, Leotawa's had the line breaks. He's had his own highlights. Vaimunga had a few moments last season, but yes, Vaimunga, very enthusiastic, shows his love of the club, shows his love of Mount Smart. But as far as him doing his job off the bench and being a brutal middle forward, he does that job very well. And he played less than 20 minutes in his first 3 games. Now he's played 4 consecutive games of 20 more minutes. So his last 4 games, 29 minutes, 41 minutes, 34 minutes, 27 minutes. So he's getting more opportunity as the depth is tested. And when we think, okay, how do the Warriors, oh my gosh, Dylan Walker, he was so impactful off the bench. How do they replace him? Well, Vai Morgan's just playing more minutes. Aaron Clark's just playing more minutes, doing more passing. Like Neil Corey can play in the middle. Everyone always, this is a theme that we're seeing with the Black Caps. We're seeing it with the Warriors. Everyone is always worrying about the players they don't have. This is a time in New Zealand sport when you need to focus on what they do have, because we're seeing it across all these sports. The players who are going to fill those spots are some of the best talent we've ever seen. And we've seen it with the players who have retired. We've seen it with, I'm not saying Luke Metcalf's a talent we've never seen, but the Warriors as an organization, as a team, they are prepared with the talent they have coming through. And now is not the time to be worried about what your Warriors, Black Caps, what your team doesn't have. Now is the time to celebrate the good people, the enthusiastic people, the grounded, humble, skillful, powerful, fast people that are rising up the ranks in all these teams that we're seeing across Aotearoa sport. What is wrong with the centre pairing of Rocco Berry and Ali Leotawa? Nothing. They're just two good NRL centres. They had two tough matchups against the Knights because, you're dealing with Bradman Best. And I saw Rocco Berry miss a legs tackle, which I've never seen before. But
I noticed that as well, yeah.
It's Bradman Best does have tattooed, powerful legs. The old leg tattoos are trendiest thing in the NRL right now. But Dane Gagai, experienced, fast, powerful, good centre. Those are difficult matchups for Ali Leotawa and Rocco Berry. They'll learn from those matchups. They were pretty good throughout the whole game. They were busy. They were involved. Rocco Berry made 28 tackles in that game. He averaged 10 meters per run on 7 runs, which is great. But he also made 28 tackles. No other outside back had more than 20 tackles. So you can look at the missed tackles, but you can also look this is a young centre who is still learning about rugby league, who is just always ripping in. He's always involved. He's going to have a crack at tackling Bradman Best around the legs. And we all know what Ali Leotawa can do. To me, this is the best centre pairing the club has. It's just pure centres. Those are the two dudes I want in the centres every single game. And again, talking about a fantastic club, fantastic organisation, Adam Pompey loves to be at the Warriors. So he's not really bothered whether he's playing wing or centre. He just wants to be there playing with the boys, getting the job done. He can play centre at a very good level, I believe. He can play wing. He can probably come off the bench. He's there to serve the Warriors. And those are the type of people that make the Warriors such a fun organisation right now. And also Taine Tuapiki. I'll elaborate on Taine Tuapiki even more in a jiffy, but he's played on the wing. He's doing his job on the wing. Is he as good a rugby league player as Roger Tuivasa-Sheck? Probably not. But he's doing his job in the Warriors team, and the Warriors win. So it doesn't matter if he's as good as Tuivasa-Sheck. The Warriors are winning games as much as they did with Tuivasa-Sheck, even though Taine Tuapiki is much smaller and doesn't really play wing. All of his reserve grade footy at fullback. NRL footy prior to the season at fullback, couple appearances off the bench. I have talked about the halves. I don't think passing is their best skill set. I'd say they are, for halves in the NRL, they're good passers. I don't think they're above average passers. I don't think they are excellent passers. I do think they are pretty damn good kickers, though. They get a lot of height on their bombs. You got a left foot, you got a right foot, which is very useful. You've got grubbers. You've got accuracy in how they land their kicks, unless they're playing against the Broncos and they dribble it over the dead ball going for a 7-tackle set, then Ben Hunt drops the ball and that kind of stuff happens. But the most important stat for each of them, Luke Metcalf, this is his first season averaging over 50 kick meters per game, and he's got 340. Chanel Harris-Tavita, this is his first season averaging over 200 kick meters per game. He's got 226. So they have both elevated their kicking this season, and I think that's an underrated attribute for both of them. It's very different to how the Warriors operated with Sean Johnson in the halves last season in 2023, right? Because Sean Johnson, I think he was getting like 500 kick meters per game. And he was doing the most kicking of his career. Well, now the Warriors have Luke Metcalf with 340 and Chanel Harris-Tavita with 225, both of which are their highest. So they weren't doing as much kicking when they were playing with Sean Johnson, let alone having two kickers sharing the workload, which is especially funky when you've got Harris-Tavita as a lefty on the left side of the field. Like, it's a very well-balanced kicking department. Could be more balanced if you had like a dummy half, 40-20 threat, that type of thing, but compared to like a lot of halves combinations, you just got two right footers. You just got one half doing all the kicking as the Warriors have previously had. Like, I don't think Harris-Tavita and Metcalf, they're not Adam Reynolds. They're not Nathan Cleary. But as far as getting the Warriors where they need to go, I think it is a far better kicking split than we've seen with the Warriors before. One last thing about the Warriors that I want to highlight, and that is their form in Australia, because their next 3 games are all going to be in Australia. We got Magic Round, where we will be playing, not we, but the Warriors and the rugby league community will be playing on the illustrious turf of Suncorp Stadium, which looks like your local cow paddock. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because I was tuned into a little bit of Brisbane Raw footy in front of no one at Suncorp Stadium, and that field looked terrible. So it'll be interesting to see how Suncorp Stadium's turf looks this weekend. Then they're away to Wollongong. They got your Dragons after that. Then after that, they're back at Suncorp Stadium where they play the Dolphins. So we've got these little season splits where, well, just winning splits, really. Yeah, 3 wins in a row. Home Seagulls, home Roosters, away to the Tigers. Talked about how they won those games. Then you lose to the Storm in Australia. Then you have 2 wins in Aotearoa, one at Mount Smart, one in Christchurch. We talked about how they won those games. Then you go to Australia for 3 games in a row. And this is going to tell us even more about what the Warriors are capable of. In 2023, when they finished 4th, they had an 8-4 away record. So you need to win games in Australia for the Warriors to be in the finals mix, and it will be interesting to see how that happens. But I went deeper and we went into New South Wales Cup. New South Wales Cup this year, they are 2-0 in Australia. 2024, they were 6-6 in Australia, which is fairly decent. 2023, 7-4 in Australia. Harold Matthews Cup. These dudes are under 17 years old, traveling to Australia every second week. In 2025, they finished 6th with a 1-2 record in Australia, but then they won all 3 finals games in Sydney to win the championship. We go Harold Matthews Cup this year. The under-17 Warriors team are 4-0 in Australia. Then they won the 2 finals games in Australia. So they are 6-0 in Australia this year. And their finals games were basically away trip. Well, they were away trips, obviously, but you're playing against the Roosters in Sydney. You win 20-4. Then you're playing against the Rabbitohs at Redfern Oval, their home ground, and you win 28-8. So to come full circle, success in these grades depends on winning in Australia. And like last season, the Warriors, they didn't make the finals. They didn't win many games in Australia. But there is across these 3 grades specifically, which are their best performing grades, they have a solid record of winning in Australia. And that is another sign that tells me that this is a decent organization and how they are performing on away trips, because we know those away trips, they come around every week or so. One last rugby league thing to finish. I did whip up a NZ Kiwis Anzac Test team. Parameters, you need to be playing last weekend. You need to be playing NRL on Anzac round, so then you could then play my imaginary Anzac Test on Anzac round. Fullback. And, of course, I'm using some of my superhuman powers to assess eligibility. Fullback, Shans Nickel-Klokstad. Wingers, Jermaine Isako, Ronaldo Mulitalo. Centres, Matthew Tomoko, Sebastian Chris. Halves, Jerome Hughes, Dylan Brown. Hooker, Phoenix Crossland. Middles, Joseph Tapane, Leo Thompson, Nofahu White. Edges, Britton Nakora, Marata Niokore. Bench, Cody Nikarima, Griffin Neem, Aaron Clark, and Xavier Willison. In my squad, we are carrying Taintua Piki, Jesse Arthurs, Ali Leotawa, who's also eligible for Samoa, Casey McLean, Isaiah Papali'i, and Scott Sorensen. Notable players who are out injured: Keanu Kinney, Will Warbrick, Cook Islands International KL Iro, Kieran Foran, Jeremy Marshall King, Brandon Smith, James Fisher Harris, Jordan Ricky. Kiwi-NRL juniors I didn't consider because they're probably going to stick with Samoa or Tonga. Dean Mariner, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Leka Halasima, Siwa Wong, Salisi Foketi, and Satili Tupanuia. From that team, I have the best Kiwi-NRL player, the best NZ Kiwis player, whatever you want, whatever umbrella you want to bucket, you want to put it in. Joseph Tapane. That dude is amazing every single week for the Raiders. Absolute beast in the middle, offloads, mobility, ruthless aggression. He is amazing. He is my best player from Aotearoa right now. And then we got 2 emergers. I did include Xavier Willison in my Kiwis team. I think he deserves to be there, especially now that he's played a few games at edge forward for the Broncos. So then you can have him on the bench for the Kiwis team and he can cover edge forward. Because I don't know if Marata Niokore is an 80-minute edge forward. So if I'm selecting Marata Niokore to play edge forward for the Kiwis, you need cover on the bench. Papali'i's not in great form with the Panthers struggling. Willison, he gets the spot. He's my best riser this season. And then also shout out Taintua Piki. I think Taintua Piki is my other notable riser. Not quite in the top team, but if Shans Nickel-Klokstad is out injured, Keanu Kinney's out injured, then I'm going Taintua Piki as my fullback. And he has been very impressive on the wing, as we talked about. Also, shout out to Sebastian Chris. Good form. good mahi for the Raiders, and he's already represented Aotearoa Kiwis, which we love to see.